Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm working on day 1 of ByTheWell4God's But God Devotional, and I am journaling in 2 Samuel 14:14, which says, "We must all die. We are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But God will not take away life, and he devises means so that the banished one will not remain an outcast." And so today I'm adding that verse to this journaling card. This was a part of the goodie bag. It's actually those paint chips on the other side. And I'm also adding some clear embossing powder. Now, when I do this, I actually get some on the typewritten font as well. I just fed this through my typewriter and actually held on to that clear embossing folder, so that was embossing powder, and so that actually made a really cool look. And so all the letters are actually a little bit bumpy with that embossing powder. And so now I'm going to start on this background. I definitely want a mixed media look, but I want to add some color. I know it's not usually what I do. I usually have a very vintage look, and I still have a vintage look with this page, but I really wanted to add that color. As you saw there, I did kind of ruin my page a little bit, crinkled it up a little bit. I was being a little too rough with my blending, but it's okay because once you add water, it kind of all crinkles a little bit, and then you heat set it and it just all looks the same anyway. So I'm using milled lavender and Victorian velvet on the back of this page. I will kind of just do a light dusting here in the middle because that ledger paper will cover it up. However, I want it to be all over the background so that when I add water and other mixed media products, it's going to behave the same all over the page. And so here I'm blending a little bit more of that milled lavender on the back so that it isn't such a definition line between the two colors. And I am adding some spritz of water across the page. I really love how this ends up looking, but you do want to make sure you dry it really well before you move on. Next, I'll be taking out my Steadfast love stamp. This stamp set sold out very fast when the kit was released, but Lori and Tom have brought it back into the shop. They ordered some more, and as of right now, there are still some left. So I'll leave the link down below in case you want to pick that up. This is a great stamp set for backgrounds and to use behind clusters. I think that fern one would be really fun behind a big cluster. But today I'm actually using the chicken wire and butterflies one, and I'm going to stamp it kind of messily around the background of this page with some Victorian velvet. So it's going to be tone on tone. So on the milled lavender part up in the upper left hand corner, you'll be able to see it really well, but otherwise it's just going to blend a little bit more into the page, and that is exactly how I want it. I don't want to take away from the cluster, and so that is why I'm using that same color. I want it to be pretty subtle in the background. Now with this stamp, you could use a large acrylic block and put the stamp on the block and get a better impression. However, when I am doing backgrounds, I don't really care much about the impression. I don't need it to be perfect, and that's why you see me use my hands. It's just easier and one less thing to get out. So, you know, frayed burlap is my friend, and so I'm adding a little bit to all the edges of my ephemera, and then I'm going to add some texture paste to this background. I still felt like it was missing something, but I wanted something light and feminine, and so I grabbed this older Momentary Affliction stencil. I absolutely love this stencil for many reasons. One being it's my grandpa's handwriting, and so I absolutely love it, but I love how delicate it is as well. And so it's a great stencil if you're just wanting to add just a little bit of something different to the background. I'm not positive if it's in stock from By the Well right now, but I will add it to the description if it is. It's a great one to pick up. However, I still felt like this background needed just a little bit of something extra, so I grabbed my Distress Stain in White Picket Fence from Tim Holtz, and I just splattered that on the background and set that aside to dry because I want it to dry naturally, or as naturally as possible before I start using my heat tool, and that really sets the color in nicely without it bubbling up. So now I will start working on this cluster. I want to add that frayed burlap and distress the edges of this journaling card. I am also going to fold it down and add some staples to the corner. But before then, I am going to use my date stamp. And I guess I haven't used my date stamp in a while, which isn't necessarily a good thing. It said April was the last time I used it. So yeah, I need to remember to use my date stamp more often. I end up sneaking this journaling card under that little fold of this vintage ledger paper. I just really like pieces of paper being ripped or folded over. I don't know, it just looks more natural to me, and so that's what I go for most of the time. I forgot also that I wanted to tuck these little leaves behind the card, so I quickly do that before that glue sets, and then I'm gonna add this butterfly. Now with this butterfly, I'm using scrapbook.com's version of score tape, and just adding it to the center of the butterfly. That tape is super sticky, so I'm not worried about it falling off, but I want to be able to prop those wings up and make it look like it's a real butterfly resting on the page, and so that is why I do that. I also have this vintage postage stamp from Ecuador, and I thought that worked well because, you know, it's tropical. And I also liked how it matched with the colors I had going on in the background. So I will put that down, and also that cluster in the bottom right-hand corner of this journaling card. Things are pretty dry on this background. However, once I put that whole piece down, I realized how much I really want that splatter to go over the ledger paper too, so it doesn't look so much like a big part of this cluster. I want your eye to be drawn to the journaling card mostly, and so adding that splatter kind of makes a continuation of the background and helps my eye go right to that journaling card more so. So now I will add glue down on the back side of this, and I will place it down. I do have one more thing that I want to add to the cluster before I add my final touch, which is this little fabric piece from ByTheWell4God. This was just part of one of the paperclip tabbies, and I deconstructed it and cut it in half and folded it and added that to the top right hand corner of this ledger paper. It is a little bit of a different green, but it doesn't bother me too much. I just like having that extra texture. And now for my final touch, I'm going to add some liquid pearls, which is very similar to Nuvo drops, and I'm just going to add that to the dots of this butterfly. The liquid pearls were actually a gift with one of the older ByTheWell4God kits maybe a couple months ago, and so I'm really happy I had the right color to use. So that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll try to leave everything I use down below in the description, and I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.